So the last thing that we want to talk about is specifically kind of like boat handling scenarios to use when we're doing these like pre-start battles. Okay, so this is going to be really specific for the crews. So this is like one just common scenario. We'll just set it up this way. We'll have ourselves as boat 3 here, and we're kind of luffing, and we're waiting for an opponent to engage us. Okay, and we're just kind of sitting there. Let's say we've got one coming here. Now we have to make a decision. Do we want to like push or lead? And we'll get, we touched on that a little bit already, and I don't want to like beat that down, so we won't get into that now. Let's just say that we've already made one of the two decisions. All right, so let's say that we want to lead. If we want to lead, it's going to be really important that we get down to their course, matching their speed before they can get their bow passes. Okay, so what are some things in play that like we need to accomplish? Like if we're sitting here luffing and they're sailing down towards us, like how do we get to like in front of them, like clear ahead, matching their speed? Lizzie, you got anything for me? So it's just like a start or like a 720. We just need to get the bow down really quickly. Okay. So if we see a boat coming and we want to lead, we have to get down to this course and like still with clear ahead. If we see them coming and we know we have to lead, it's like okay. Eventually the skipper's going to say something like bow down or something. That's when we have to go like hard with the jib and hard with the heel to windward so that we can get it down. And then we recover, and now we're just boat speed mode right in front of them. Okay? So now, once we're leading, now we're trying to get a hook, right? Because, if we're leading, eventually we're going to have to get to a point where we want to stop, right? Or else we're just going to sail past the pin lay line, and then we're going to lose our pair. All right? So how do we accomplish this hook? All right? And this is, again, going to be kind of like we're focusing on the boat handling of this. We basically want to keep sailing lower. And we'll just keep sailing lower. They'll follow us. And as long as we're not overlapped, we can keep sailing low. And the idea is that we kind of get down in front of them and then hook like that. Okay? So a lot of this is on the skipper, but the crew can help. If we can be crossing them, and then once we kind of get here, if we can kind of slow down a little bit, like maybe like a touch of jib luff, or maybe like a touch of overtrim on the main, that kind of slows us down, and then all of a sudden they have no choice but to go up there, then we turn up. Now this turn up is where the boat handling thing is like really, really crucial. Okay? And this is where like the most over-exaggerated turn up that we would do like at a leeward mark, this is like where we got to do that. Okay? So what are some things that go into that, this turn, to like make it really deadly? Yeah. So skippers, let's break it down to skippers and crews. Skippers, what are you doing during this turn up? Sheeting fast and hard, and probably stepping to leeward, and maybe even stepping back just a touch, right? And then it's just like really hard. Crews, probably helping the boat heel a little bit, and not trimming the jib as fast as the main, correct? So it's a little bit behind the main, probably like a half a luff. And then when we get up towards like close hauled, it's actually pretty important to treat this as like a half acceleration. So we do need to kind of flatten when we get up here, because we don't know if this boat's going to like fully accelerate, try to go over the top, or whatever. So we need to kind of match that boat. So we need to be prepared to do kind of like a half acceleration. Okay? So we flatten the boat out. Then once we get them kind of pinned here, now we need to like assess their speed and as quickly as we can match their speed in the water. Okay? And so that's going to be like really fine, minute adjustments to our sail trim. All right? And that's going to be both on the skipper and the crew. But basically, once we hook them, we want to be in a position where they can't roll us. So they're not too far in front of us, because then they might be able to roll us. But also, we don't want to get out in front of them, because then they can come down and hook us. All right. So that's really important. Is we kind of want like the front half of our boat overlapped with the back half of theirs, or maybe a little more than that. But this is kind of the end result. When you're looking for a hook, this is like what you want to see. All right. So now let's just say we didn't do that quite so well, and for whatever reason, you know, we got the hook, but come up and maybe they just turned up better than us, and they've created separation, right? So now we're sitting here. What should, well, both people, but definitely the crew, like what should we be watching with this boat? Yeah. So they're either going to tack or come at us again, right? So if they tack, what should we do? Follow them. And if they duck, we just have to do the same thing we just did again, right? And both of these scenarios are like, it is so crucial to have. I mean, it's just like, I mean, for those of us who play other sports, like if you're playing defense, you're always like a half a step behind, right? So your steps better be really fast. Okay? Like, I mean, defensive backs in football, they have to react to what the wide receivers are doing. And that's why they have the fastest feet in the game, right? Because they have to be able to catch up all the time. So let's just say they come down. We're going to start that after them. So we need to make sure we do it faster so that once again, we're down in front, ready to hook them again. Let's say they tack. We have to do this at an even faster rate because we have more space to turn through to get to what we want. What is it that we want when we go for this tack?
Well, you want to go low.
We want this, right? So that's a lot of space to swing through and still get them, okay? And it's really, because what happens, let's say they tack, and we don't tack fast enough, and we're going for that, they jibe, watch this. It's not necessarily a foul, but you're definitely losing now.
It's going to be ugly.
Okay? So this tack here, this is, I mean, once you get this right, this is like one of the most sweetest feelings in team racing. Because you're basically just pantsing them hard. You know, you've already gotten them on the hook, then they tack, you tack, and all of a sudden you're there. And they don't even know how you got there. Okay? So this can be kind of like my last point. How do we do this tack to make sure that we're like really on them? Scotty?
Maybe you don't throw really that huge of a roll, but you want to like over flatten and overturn the gym to get your bow around.
Yeah, I think you do probably roll significantly hard because it helps spin the boat through. But the extra long backwind on the jib is really important. So that'll like spin us all the way down. But the thing is, like, it'll spin us, but we're still not there yet. So then we have to realize, like, once we're all healed up and the boat is like past close hauled on the next tack, now is when we do like a little acceleration with like kind of an over flatten that sends us down to lure to their boat. Okay? And that's really important.
So I understand why you want to like get your bow around like below the corner of their stern, but I feel like if you got a little bit too far forward and they went for the tack, you wouldn't be able to like swing your bow around and then be like chasing again. Maybe
yeah, that is important to recognize.
Like, do a little speed control so you kind of like
it's important to recognize situational, like, you know, where you are on their boat. I mean, if you're like this and they tack, yeah, you're just going to tack into that situation, and that's not going to be good. So if that's the scenario where they tack here, that's going to be kind of a different play. Maybe we buy ourselves a little time and then tack, or maybe we just do the big S turn down to get them when they come back here.
Well, what I was talking about was getting your bow around like behind their stern, but then like going past them. See kind of what I'm saying? Like, you get down here and you
about
just get a little too much
tack,
and
you go like that.
You kind of do something like that.
Yeah, I think we're. Yeah, I mean you're right. Like you need to be able to just control your speed coming out of that tack. But that's going to be like every situation is going to be different. Like different breeze strength, different spacing between the boats. It's all going to like require a little bit of thought and reaction to the specific scenario. But I mean that's why we play. It's fun.
I think two things to add to that is that through this turn, right? And I think this is what John and Scott really are both talking about, is like the conditions are so dependent on how you maneuver the boat in this turn up, right? And we see that with leeward mark roundings all the time, right? If it's windy, we can be really aggressive with like how hard we steer and how hard we sheet, right? And we can there's a little more room for error with maybe oversteering a little or oversheeting a little because we've got plenty of power. Whereas like if it's lighter, like 6 knots, it's like if we don't match our trim to our steering perfectly, then the boat washes out, and that's how we get this situation with extra space, right? Or if, let's say we trim the jib too quickly on this turn up, and that keeps our bow from coming up. That's another reason why we get extra separation here, right? And then we're in the same fight again rather than actually owning them. Okay, and then same deal, like when John was talking about when we're up in this luff, and then they go to tack away. It's like how hard you have to roll. Scott's point with the crew is really dependent on what the breeze is like and how fast you're going, right? If you're like stopped, you're both luffing and stopped, then you got to roll like really hard, right, to get the boat to spin through the tack. Whereas like if you're carrying a little bit of momentum, or if you're actually like carrying a lot of momentum, then we maybe don't need a ton of roll to get the bow through and get it down, right? Does that make sense to everybody? And so that gives you just like a quick slice of like how, and I think this is where you go from like everybody can understand where we want what we want the boats to look like when we're the green boat and we're trying to control our opponent at the start, but being able to mesh like how we do it with the end goal here is the most critical thing. Okay. Any questions at all? Everybody feel pretty good about all the stuff we talked about? Great. Next week, I think we'll probably talk about play 1 and the chasing plays. Should be a blast.